All right. May we help? That's kind of your slogan, right? May we help?
It is.
Yeah. Tell me how you may help.
You want to do introductions first, Ruth?
Well, okay,
I
Rob.
know we know them, but maybe not everyone else. So I think we should.
maybe. Rob,
That would be nice.
Yeah, we know.
First
So-
of all, I'm just seeing Andy's face, and Andy, you and I met like I think it must have been 6 years ago now. We were at a country club, and we were celebrating the people who the Also High Soul Foundation had the organizations that the foundation had helped over the years. And I was
All right.
at the time Cincinnati Therapeutic Riding and Horsemanship, but I don't think I've seen you since. So it's hello and good to see you again.
Well, hi again. That's me.
Wow, great. Now I'm an executive director at May We Help.
and you're Rob Seidemann, right?
Yes.
And who do you have with you today?
That is Katie Calora, who actually is the most senior person now at May We Help. Katie's been there, I think, 7 or 8 years, and Katie is our development director.
Hello. Hello.
Hey. Hi, Katie.
Well, I guess you know who I am. And then we have Dick.
Hi, Dick Murgatroyd. I'm on the advisory board for the Also Soul.
Hi, Dick. Thank you. You've been so helpful to some of the visions that we've had over the years, and we're so appreciative. Thanks.
Frank Hicks, board member.
Likewise, Frank. Thank you so much. Great to meet you.
And then, you know, we have Andy and
I'm Jordan. Hey, good seeing you guys.
good seeing you.
Too.
All right. Well, Rob, why don't you take it and go with what is May We Help and how have we helped you and how can we help you in the future?
Fabulous. Well, just this quick overview of May We Help. Sometimes, and you all know this so well, but sometimes if you have a disability, the only thing standing in the way between you and living life the way you want to is a device, a piece of technology. And when that device or technology is not available in the marketplace, that's when May We Help's team of volunteers steps in. And it really is a volunteer-driven organization. Our staff has grown over the last couple of years from a whopping 3 staff members to 5 staff members. I'm the only full-timer. Everybody else works part-time. Yet we have over 75 volunteers. And it's really it's just so great that the staff is really there to support the needs of the volunteers. And that's about it. The volunteers are doing most of the work. And they represent almost every imaginable skill set. Our volunteers are engineers, inventors, and industrial designers. They're also welders, woodworkers, and seamstresses. And they're also doctors and occupational and physical therapists. And depending on the device that we're creating for an individual, those skill sets will come together accordingly. So in some cases, you might have an occupational therapist and a welder and an inventor come together to create a device. But in another instance, you might have a seamstress and a doctor. And they might come together to create the device. And we have examples of each one that I'm sure you've seen, but we can always supply more. We love telling the individual stories of the clients that we've helped. But that's sort of in a nutshell what we do. So we take on project requests, solution requests from clients, assign those requests to a team of volunteers, and then that team of volunteers designs, builds, and then delivers a one-of-a-kind custom device that's life-transforming for these people. And we do this hundreds of times every single year.
And it's all given free of cost to the clients. We don't ask anything in return.
Yeah. So that's our core program. And that core program has been around for over 10 years. There were 3 founders of our organization, all of whom happen to be named Bill. 2 of those 3 founders are still with us. And in fact, Bill Sand is still our most prolific volunteer, even at the age of 75. He's amazing. And now he's taken to helping other teams of volunteers design and build their projects in sort of a mentorship role. But there's a 3rd Bill that sadly passed away 10 years ago. His name is Bill Wood. And but his legacy remains because of May We Help and because of his son, Chip Wood, who happens to be the founder of Tire Discounters. And so we are located in the old original Tire Discounters warehouse because Chip is looking out for his dad's legacy. But back to our programming. Like I said, that's what I just described as our core program. And when we receive a project, a team of volunteers' first step is to meet the client, meet the person making the request. Typically that happens in the home, but sometimes it'll happen in the workplace. It happens wherever the client wants to thrive. And so this team of volunteers will meet the client, better get to know his or her needs. Like I said, better get to know the environment in which they want to thrive. And when we do that discovery visit, more times than not, we will come across 2, 3, 4 pieces of adaptive equipment that are collecting dust in the basement or garage of this client we're serving. And that's because, adaptive equipment doesn't last forever. It lasts forever in terms of its durability, but it doesn't last in terms of meeting the client's needs. So sometimes the client will grow out of that equipment. Sometimes the client's condition will evolve them out of that equipment. But regardless, the equipment's too expensive to throw away. So it just sits in these guys' houses collecting dust. Well, we meet just as many people throughout the course of any given day who are desperate for that very equipment. And so while we don't know anybody else in the world actually who's done this, it seemed like a no-brainer to us. And we created an adaptive equipment swap, whereby we match people with equipment that people donate to us, and it helps them get on with their life. Well, so people are donating equipment to us all the time. And we started this in March of 2019. And since March of 2019, we have matched over 275 people with over $1.25 million worth of adaptive equipment. And to Katie's point, we do it all for free. So people are now coming to May We Help and taking home things like power chairs that are valued anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. These are chairs that are changing people's lives that they otherwise wouldn't have had access to for insurance reasons or whatever sort of reasons. They're getting a power chair from us for free. There was just a video that WCPO put on the air covering one of our matches, and I should pass that on to you if we haven't already, because it's pretty emotional and pretty moving. We have matched 3 families now with handicapped accessible vans, each valued at about $30,000 to $35,000, and then hundreds of pieces of other equipment like shower chairs and gait trainers and walkers and things like that. So that's another program that is just growing like crazy and has transformed the community's accessibility to adaptive equipment. It literally has transformed it. Children's Hospital, for example, particularly over COVID, they relied on this almost 100% because everything was so delayed, yet people's needs weren't delayed. They needed that equipment right away, and we were able to help those people. It's really been amazing. Katie, do you want to chime in on some of the other things that we're hoping for assistance with that'll help us meet the needs of the community?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I put in the application is a new program that we are doing. It's called, I don't know if you're aware of Go Baby Go. But what it is it will take Power Wheels, the little motorized cars that kids ride for fun. Well, kids that aren't mobile, to help with their mobility, to help them get around, our volunteers will be adapting these cars. So say, for example, one could have a button on the back of the car where they can take their head and lean their head back because they aren't able to use their arms or feet, and it will steer the car. So it's a program that we will be taking these Power Wheels and providing mobility for children that aren't able to get around. It's pretty cool. These little cars are awesome. And then the other thing was just our normal programming to allow our volunteers, we give everything free of cost. So we need help getting our materials provided to allow our volunteers to create these life-changing devices for free. That's a big need of ours right now. And, COVID, it really, really hit the disability community hard. A lot of them were not able to attend their therapies, so they lost a lot of their mobility. They just really need our services right now more than ever. We've been realizing our requests are kind of going off the chart right now for projects.
How do you recruit volunteers for specific needs?
I'm sorry, Ruth?
how do you recruit volunteers in general, but then how do you, if you have a special need for something, how do you find the volunteer that can do what it is you need done?
Great question. So in 2019, we added 26 new volunteers to May We Help. And in 2020, we added 25 new volunteers to May We Help. So, and mostly it's word of mouth. So it's mostly our current volunteers telling their sort of engineering friends how great May We Help is. And maybe more specifically, how satisfying it is. This is sort of the general sentiment of a May We Help volunteer. How satisfying it is to use one skill set to help somebody else. And it's resonating with the volunteers, and they're doing the recruiting on their own. It's not like we're going to, you know, volunteer fairs and going to P&G and going to places to find these engineers. They're finding us, which is really exciting for us. And then in terms of coordinating the right volunteers to handle the right project, one of the people that we've added to our staff is a gentleman named Bo, who is now our project manager. And he's created a project management system. We implemented Monday.com because we've had to somehow accommodate for our growth. Because like Katie said, we've taken on more project requests every year starting in 2019. It just keeps growing. Part of it is we're getting the word out more. Part of it is, like Katie said, the needs are there more than ever. But it's Bo's job to put together the right volunteer teams. And then the project management system that we implemented also helps with that, because we now have a volunteer directory with all of the volunteers' areas of expertise. So let's say you are an engineer, but you need the input of a physical therapist. Well, you can just go now into our project management system, find some of the volunteers who are physical therapists and contact them directly and get the information you need to keep the project moving forward.
If I call you today with a need, what's the time frame of how you schedule the meeting with me? And then what's the typical timeline of getting whatever I need constructed and delivered?
When possible, we just make the call right when we get the project request, because one of the things that we know about the families that are in need of our services, they need hope immediately. And so if we can get the call, if we can make the call to them right on the spot, maybe we haven't solved the problem yet, but at least hearing our voices on the other end of the call saying, you know what, we think we can help you. That just means so much to those families. They can just breathe a big sigh of relief right then and there. But we never make them wait longer than 48 hours for the first response. And then we have assigned because of this new project management system, now we assign, depending on the sophistication of the project, we assign a 30, 60, or 90-day completion goal. And so we're actually able to get right back to the client and say, hey, we can help you, number one. And number two, your project's going to take you to 30, 60, or 90 days. So now they have some hope and they have a time frame.
Do you also tell them, like if it's a child, do you anticipate growing with the child and therefore you say, we'll be back in touch with you X amount of times at, these different mile markers?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I just had a conversation with a dad whose son was newly diagnosed with a syndrome I hadn't even heard about called Angelman syndrome. And the kid had just been diagnosed, and so they didn't really know their needs yet. But Children's Hospital had said, look, you're going to need May We Help. So here's their contact information. You might as well start the relationship now. So that's exactly what he did. And I said, so what do you think we might be able to help you out with? And he said, well, I don't know. And I want to make the most of this opportunity because it's sort of like the genie comes out and says, what do you want? I don't want to blow it with a bad request. And I said, no, back up. Please know that it's not just one request. We're with a family forever. Like Children's Hospital is with you, I think, until your child turns 26, I think, or 22 or something like that. And I said, we're exactly the same way. We're with you forever. And there are families for whom we have done, I think, well, one family, Ireland's family comes to mind. We've done at least 10 projects for her. And 2 years ago, this poor little girl, Ireland, who's had enough to deal with her entire life, but she just 2 years ago had her entire spine fused, and then her spine fused to her hip. And so while she was still the sweet self that she always has been, physically, she was a completely different human being. And the family contacted us and said, we hate to ask this of you. You've already done so much for us over the years, but we need you to come modify all the pieces of equipment you previously modified for us because her body's different. And so we did.
Are you familiar with A Kid Again?
Yes. Yeah.
You do have many of those kids in your?
What's interesting is, God, I'm trying to think. What's the name of the organization that Maria represents, Katie? I can't remember. Anyway, that's not so important, but we are trying to create an alliance of organizations that help families with disabilities and needs like that. And we think that the alliance is going to be really powerful because we're all serving we've learned that we're all serving some of the same families, yet we're not cooperating and collaborating together, and it's silly. So yeah, we do serve a lot of the same people as A Kid Again does. And we're hoping this alliance is a place where ultimately, initially it won't be this big a vision, but ultimately our vision is that we have somebody actually answering the alliance's phone, because let's say you like this dad that just had this diagnosis of his son. He's going to go online, and Cincinnati's great because it has so many resources for kids with disabilities, but it can also be overwhelming. Like you go on there and you go online and there's 100 organizations that say they'll help you and your family with this child with a disability. Well, who do you know who to call? But if there's an alliance, then you just call that number and they say, oh, well, you should go to A Kid Again, and they'll help you with this need, and you should go to May We Help, and they'll help you with this need, and I'll help you, make those connections. So we're really excited about this idea, and A Kid Again was a part of that alliance discussion.
All right, Dick, do you have any questions?
No. I guess, how many, average of clients do you handle in a year's time?
Our average is about 275 clients every year for whom we create a device that's never been made before.
Wow, that's amazing what you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Our volunteers they are truly amazing.
Frank, how about you?
No questions. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. It's good to hear you're still chugging along, even though 2020 was not ideal, I guess.
It wasn't, but you know what? I know that, some organizations didn't make it through 2020, sadly. Some organizations survived. Our goal was not to survive. Our goal was to thrive. And in fact, we really, really did. We fulfilled more projects in 2020 than in 2019, which in 2019 was a record-setting year by, I think we grew our number of projects by 40% in from 2018 to 19. And in 2020, we beat that record yet again. And that doesn't even include some of the things that we did that were, I don't know, you call them side projects, I don't know, but when COVID first hit and there was a shortage of PPE, our volunteers got together and said, hey, how can we help? And we came up with the idea of making face shields. And with the assistance of some of our for-profit partners, we made and delivered 12,000 face shields to hospitals in our region initially. And then we did a second round of face shields to help businesses reopen, like dentists and doctors and daycare facilities. So those numbers don't even include the stuff that we did that was sort of extracurricular and what was needed at the time.
Are you able to generate any revenue from any of these things that you produce?
Funny you should ask that. That has been a really big push for me over the last year. And I'll just give you a little bit of background. I joined May We Help just shy of 3 years ago. And when I was being interviewed, and it was my turn to ask questions of the board, I only had one question. And I said, what's the biggest pain point of the organization? What comes up at every board meeting and everybody groans? And it was really funny because when when I posed the question, everybody groaned. And they said it's commercialization. Like what? Because most 99% of the devices that we create aren't really suitable for multiple users. That's why we exist. They're one of a kind, custom designed for a specific individual's needs. But every once in a while, we'll create a device that helps multiple users. And one of them is called a sensory chair. And it's basically in 2015, a mom contacted May We Help and said, hey, I got a kid with autism. He would benefit from a chair that would be custom built that would have 3 qualities. One, it would rock, because kids with autism, it makes them feel so much better when they're rocking. 2, it would have sort of deep pressure, like feeling like you're in a cocoon, because that helps people with feel better with autism. And thirdly, and most importantly, it would have a means of shutting out sensory input. And so we created this chair that does all those qualities, and we gave it to this child. And Liz Bonus of Channel 12, she does a health report, and she knew we were onto something special even before we did. She covered the chair's delivery and said, this is something real deal. Well, sure enough, Liz was right. And we have since placed over 300 of these sensory chairs, not just in homes, but in hospitals and schools, and even trauma-informed care units. And it led us to the idea that what if we were to commercialize one of these products? So anyway, we decided to commercialize, and we created a separate LLC called May We Help Development LLC, and it has its own separate board of directors. And our first project is commercializing the sensory chair. So we have partnered with, and it just materialized this last couple of weeks. We actually have an agreement in place with a furniture maker, a really well-respected and really large furniture maker who is going to start commercializing the sensory chair. And it could be as early as the middle of this year that they'll be coming off the line, and we'll be distributing them across the country. It's very exciting because just one data point alone, there are 1.25 million children in just the US alone with autism. Well, if we can help just 0.01% of those, that's 12,500 sensory chairs. And the benefits of that chair, we'll be giving it to tens of thousands more people, which is, that's reason enough to do it right there. But better still, we have now created an alternative revenue stream for May We Help, because May We Help Development will then donate all the profits to May We Help, the nonprofit, to further our mission. So it's a very exciting time at May We Help right now.
So if I have a child with autism, what is the line of demarcation between you give it to me for free versus I go out and buy it?
Yeah, it'll become this is the first time that in May We Help history that we'll ever start asking our clients what their financial needs are. We've never done that before because it didn't matter to us. But part of the deal that we worked out with this furniture maker is however many chairs they make in a given year, 10% of those have to be donated to May We Help, so that we can give that chair to a family that still would benefit from that chair, but doesn't have the financial means to purchase that chair.
So do you have a way of marketing these through your other LLC to hospitals and facilities that would actually pay big bucks for them?
Correct. Yes, we do. And we're splitting the marketing responsibilities with the furniture maker. And May We Help's role will be reaching out to, just like you said, the hospitals with which we have, long established relationships, and the other organizations that serve autism in our region. There's several of them.
Yeah.
And we always work closely and hand in hand with those organizations. So they're excited too.
How far out do you go out as far as reaching clients are concerned?
Great question. So to date, we've sent projects to over 36 different states. And internationally too. We just sent, there's a young girl in Palestine who has no arms, but she plays the cello. And for whatever reason, we've done several devices for people with no arms who play the cello. One of them is almost our poster, client. Inga, we did one of these for her 8 years ago. But word got out, and there's this young lady in Palestine that we just sent the same device to, and she plays the cello by using her feet. And this device that we created allows her to hold the cello bow in between the toes of her feet with the precision that she needs. That's one part of the equation. And the more sophisticated part of the engineering for this project is putting the cello at the right angle so that one, she can reach it at an angle that works for her, but two, the sound it makes reverberates properly. And that's it's beyond my sound engineering understanding, but there's a lot to this project.
Wow, amazing.
Are there any other organizations like you in
There
the,
are, but I can count them on one hand.
where are they located?
There's one in Canada. There's one other one in the States. There's one in England, and there's one in Israel.
Oh, so we're talking the world, not just the United States.
Yeah, I can count.
We haven't found anything like us in the United States.
Yeah,
So do you market your services to California, Arizona, all those areas now?
not yet. Not yet. It's all
But
been.
they're finding us.
There's-
I mean, people are requesting devices from out of state. I mean, somehow they're finding us. Soon,
But-
one day we'll be able to market us.
Yeah, but don't you have to fit the devices to the person somewhat?
We do. So we've gotten really creative, and COVID forced us to get creative too, because now we couldn't even meet in person. And, you know, as you pointed out, you know, just taking measurements, for example, like we used to just get right in a client's face and measure their wheelchair and measure their head or their neck or whatever we needed to do. And so now we've had to get creative, and we're using Zoom and Skype and doing those things. And instead of measuring the wheelchair, in person, maybe we'll just get the specs from the manufacturer of that wheelchair, and then we'll have the measurements we need. But the volunteers have figured out ways and gotten creative to figure out how to fit and modify in a custom, environment. But lots more back and forth, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, would you have to ship something out and then they ship it back and then you modify it and then you ship it back out?
We try not to. We try to do it, via Zoom. But yeah, sometimes we've been shipping. Yes.
So who picks up the cost of shipping
We pick up
equipment?
all the costs every time.
Wow. Frank, you have any questions yet?
No more, very interesting.
Anybody?
I don't have anything. I'll say this, our board meets are at the end of this month are on April 29th. And as you know, we usually like to get back to everybody within a week of the board meeting. So kind of the first week in May, you'd be hearing back from us. And as Ruth mentioned, we recorded this, so the other 7 or so people on the board will be able to watch this at their own time.
Well, let
Fantastic. Thank you.
let me
Thanks
ask
for the heads up on the
one
timing.
more. Can you zero in, just everybody always wants to know, how are you going to use the Elsa grant money?
Well, go ahead, Katie. Do you have?
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
Well, in particular, just like Katie said, we are doing more projects than ever. So one, project supplies. Our volunteers don't charge for their time. So if you were just using, a contractor, you'd be, time and materials, for example. Our volunteers don't charge for time, but we do still need to purchase the materials. Number one. Number two, the swap is just growing like crazy. So we'll put money towards planning the swap, marketing the swap, bringing in. It just keeps growing, and in fact, we wouldn't use the money towards this. We have other funds set aside for this, but just so you know, it's growing so much that we are remodeling the interior of the building to create more space, because the inventory is overflowing into areas that we need for other things. And then, like Katie said, to implement the Go Baby Go program, which is huge. There are other Go Baby Go programs in other communities. So its success has already been proven. We just haven't done it in our community yet.
And the Go Baby Go program, just a real brief description.
Yes, that's the electric cars that we modify so that kids with disabilities can use them. So just like Katie said, so if you got, if you don't have use of your hands and your feet, but you want to zip around in a car and have the kind of fun that every other kid is, we can modify it accordingly. Sometimes you might have use of your hands, but not your feet. So where the gas pedal might be, we'll put the gas pedal on the steering wheel so they can operate it with their hands, for example. But
Brakes.
there's no program out there like Go Baby Go that can so quickly and so readily bring a smile to a kid's face. I mean, it's crazy.
Okay, but the brakes, how do you stop it?
You can put the brake on the steering wheel too, just like you can do the gas.
All right. That was
I don't
funny.
know.
We do a lot of work for St. Joseph Home. St. Joseph Home, if you're not familiar with it, it's a long-standing institution in Cincinnati, but it's a residential community for people with maybe the most complex disabilities, at least I've ever seen. To give you an idea of how complex the disabilities are for these people, there are 48 residents and over 250 caregivers. And most of these residents are at St. Joseph Home for Life. They have children there too. And when the relationship with May We Help started, we literally transformed St. Joseph Home. And in fact, I love visiting there because they're so grateful for what we've done. They do everything but roll out a red carpet for us. Like, we have transformed not just the lives of the residents, but the lives of the caregivers too, by creating devices that help them. I'll give you an example of two devices. One of the Go Baby Goes. So whereas St. Joseph Home used to be sort of this stuffy place, it was all sort of institutional and medical, and it had to be because there's, lives are at stake, but there wasn't any fun. Well, now you've got kids and Go Baby Goes cruising the hallways of St. Joseph Home, which brings life to not just them, but even the older residents who take pleasure in watching the kids sit through the halls. But for the older folks, one of the devices that we created for them, they love the simple pleasures of life just like we do, right? One of those simple pleasures is rocking in a rocking chair. But what they were having to do at St. Joseph Home to get those people into a rocking chair is lift them out of their bed or their wheelchair, and then as gently and as gracefully as possible, sort of drop them into a rocker. Well, there just is no dignity there. There just isn't. And so what our volunteers created was an automatic rocker. So what it is a base that the residents at St. Joseph Home can wheel their wheelchairs onto whenever they want. And with the push of a button, the entire base rocks. And so now basically the residents are rocking 24/7 at St. Joseph Home, and they're happy as can be. And they just requested 5 more rockers. So it's a pretty sophisticated project, you can imagine. But it's been so successful, and so we'll use the money for that. That's for sure.
Can't you monetize that one also?
Yeah, that's the new thing. Now that we're almost at the commercialization stage with the sensory chair, now we're looking what our pipeline of new products should be, and that's certainly in the running.
Okay, well, I guess thanks for taking time this afternoon to meet with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time to learn more about what we're doing.
Yeah,
Yep, it's
thank
good seeing you
Scott.
guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, enjoy your rest of your day.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.